Hey everybody, Corey here coming at you with another knife first impressions video. If you're new here, consider subscribing. I try to acquire a new knife every month. Don't tell my wife. Today, we have something that I have been very interested in for a long time. They finally came back in stock, and unfortunately, this one is not going to be mine. Yes, I know, it's so sad. I'm actually giving this to my father for his birthday. He's kind of into knives, not as crazy about them as I am, but he is. And the last time we spoke, he mentioned that he was really interested in brass knives, or he was attracted to brass accents. And I said, well, I happened to be on the internet, and for the first time in like 6 months, these were back in stock the day that I happened to be just browsing on Blade HQ. So here we are. I believe these are relatively limited editions. They never have as many of these in stock. I wouldn't quite call them a sprint run because they brought more out, but I can't guarantee that these are going to be around forever. Anyhow, this is a first impressions video because, as I usually do with my first impressions videos, if it's a knife that I'm not going to have a lot of time with, most likely because I'm giving it away typically as a gift, that's what you're going to get. So this is me talking about things that I notice about the knife right away, taking it out of the box, and just getting a general feel for the knife based on my limited experience with it. So let's just jump right into it. So the first thing that I noticed was that this was actually a relatively small knife. When you look at it in my hand, you can see what I'm talking about there. I don't know. I mean, you can look up the specs of the knife online, and I should have seen, based on the overall length, that it wasn't a massive knife. It just never occurred to me. So many people love the Elementum, and I find that a lot of people tend to like knives that are a little bit bigger. The knives that get the best reputation seem to be a bit larger, like the Spyderco PM2, for example. That's always coming up. But this is quite small. Normally, I don't do size comparisons, but I think it's relevant here. So here's the Civivi Elementum, and here is a knife that pretty much everybody knows about. It's the Ontario Knives Rat 2. And I want to say, I feel like the Elementum is like Civivi's response to the Rat. These knives are so similar. There are some differences. And I'll talk about them for the most part a little bit later, because I feel like they're very relevant to be compared to one another. And don't mind how gunky my Rat 2 is. This is my Corona knife. I open all my packages with it. But you can see in terms of overall length, these are basically the same knife. Like, it is really crazy. So far, just from what I can see, I would describe the Civivi as a little bit more jazzed up Rat 2. The Rat 2 is a very bare bones, what you see is what you get, working man's knife. There's God bless them, there's really nothing sexy about the Rat 2. This Elementum, however, at least the models, the brass, the copper, these come in copper as well. This is pretty, right? You can tell it's made to go to work. It's solid, but it's very pretty too. I keep saying pretty. I don't know what else to say. It's a nice looking knife. And again, just for another comparison, you've seen it against the Rat 2, which is a relatively small knife. Here it is against the ZT-0452, which is renowned as quite a large knife. So there you go. It's a moderately small knife, to be quite honest. And I wasn't expecting that. Let's talk about things that I noticed in terms of handling. So something about this, for me, it's just a little awkward. And I feel like it might be because of the size. I feel like it's because I'm used to relatively large knives, but holding it like this, my pinky, I can't get there with my pinky. And so it's just a little awkward for me. However, this is a sharpening choil. It is not meant to be a forward finger choil. However, you've got such a long ramp here that I found that you can actually really get up on there if you want to. And I actually like that because then you can see I can grab the whole thing. I can get a hold of it with my pinky. So this is actually really comfortable, especially for pole cuts, because you've got a ton of ramp here on the back side of the flipper tab where you can get a good grip on it without worrying about getting too close to that blade. So I do like that. I don't know if that's intentional, but it certainly works that way. Something else that I was very, very, very impressed with. Normally what I do when I give knives away is I give them the special treatment where I'll go through on my KME sharpening system and I'll put a mirror edge on them. Well, two things stop me from doing that on this one. One, it's a rugged knife. You know, it's got that beat up kind of antique patinaed brass look. And I felt like it might actually be kind of out of place putting a really pretty reflective mirror edge on a knife that looks so rugged and so mean. So I didn't want to do that. However, what I really want to get at here that was impressive, out of the box, this tree tops hairs. It's not just shaving sharp, it is tree topping sharp. And that is something that I have never, ever, ever, ever seen before on a knife out of the box. Maybe I'm lucky, I don't know. But this knife does it. This knife is extremely sharp out of the box, and because of that, I really just didn't want to touch it. I feel absolutely no need to sharpen it. You know, if I get my hand in here, I can just barely, I mean, it just absolutely takes hairs off. It's crazy. I've never had a knife this sharp out of the box, so that was very impressive to me. I actually thought, in terms of action, I thought that this was on washers instead of bearings, because you can see it's really smooth on the open, but when I do this, boy oh boy, this is not a drop shut knife. And hey, that's okay. Not every knife has to be a drop shut knife. But I was surprised when I looked up the specs to see that it's actually running on ball bearings, at least according to the Civivi website. I'm not going to take this apart. You can see them in there. I mean, it doesn't have a drop shut action. So if you're someone who really, really, really likes to fiddle with your knives, this one might not be the one for you if you like to open and close them. The other thing I'll say right away, the flipper tab reminds me very, very much of the Kershaw Leak. And unfortunately, I'm not huge on the flipper tab on the Kershaw Leak. This is just a little too tiny for me. Now, I will say, this is a relatively small knife, right? So to put an obnoxious flipper tab on it would not make a whole lot of sense. However, I would like maybe literally just a millimeter, just one little extra millimeter on that end to get a good grip on it, because it doesn't have very aggressive jimping on the end. So really, there's nothing to really, really grab on. You have to make a conscious decision to kind of push in there and make sure it opens. I will say the liner, the lock bar, sticks out just enough for it to be pretty comfortable to close. I don't have any troubles closing this knife, and I found that with some knives, they get the lock bar wrong and they're actually really annoying to close. This one, it's not the case, and it's also, it's very smooth, so it doesn't gouge up your thumb when you're messing with it. So, again, the way it is, it's got a strong detent. It's not going to drop shut, but it's also not going to open accidentally. This knife, it's a very deliberate knife. Other things, the finish is absolutely beautiful on the brass model, and I can only assume the copper model it's the same. This is right-handed only. It's tip-up carry. The pocket clip, absolutely love it. Very, very, very deep carry. It is as deep as it could possibly get on this knife. That is very impressive. While we're here, the centering is absolutely perfect. Can't complain about that. And if you're the kind of person who likes a lanyard hole, there it is. I think they did it in a good way. It's not obtrusive. It's not horrendously ugly. I like it. I don't mind it. So there you go, lanyard hole. The steel is D2. Not bad. I like D2 steel. It's got great edge retention, and honestly, that's really all I care about in a knife nowadays. You do not have to get this with the black DLC coating. I did because I thought it looked better. And knowing my dad, he's a DIY kind of guy. If he wants to take it off, I'm sure he could take it off himself. So there you go, Dad. Happy birthday. What else do I want to say? Oh, amazing slicer. I think one of the reasons that it's as sharp as it is because not only is it relatively thin blade stock to begin with, 0.12 inches, it is hollow ground. So it's as thin as it can possibly be behind the edge. It's a hollow grind the whole way. So that's nice. The jimping, just aggressive enough to be useful, not so aggressive that it eats your thumb. All in all, I mean, it's pretty solid. It reminds me a lot of the Rat 2. The best way I can say it is it's the Rat 2 that I actually wanted. Not to crap on the Rat 2, but the Rat 2 is a very utilitarian knife. It is a knife. It's not meant to be sexy. It's meant to be used, and that's it. It's meant to cut things. This knife, I get the same vibe. It's very solidly built, but it's gorgeous. It's got nice lines. I like the blade profile better. It's more appealing to the eye, right? So we'll put the Rat away. We don't need to talk about that anymore. So that's the Elementum. That's everything I'm getting from this. Overall, very solid, feels very nice. And oh, by the way, brass is generally relatively heavy. I don't know if you can see that in there, but they skeletonized the liners. So at least it's got some weight reduction going for it there. Let's see, what else do we get in the package? You get your standard Civivi carrying case. It's got the nice cloth on the inside, and this one actually came with, whoa, stickers. Isn't that crazy? And of course, it also comes with the warranty card and your cleaning cloth. So all in all, you know, I wasn't extremely impressed with my first Civivi. This one, however, I think kind of brings it back for me. The two things that the Civivis I've handled have had in common is that there seems to be a decent amount of tension on the lock bar, which prevents them from being very drop shutty. And as someone who loves to fidget with their knives, that's something that I look for. However, in terms of overall quality and honestly good looks, this is a very, very utilitarian knife with a little bit of sex appeal added to it. So, hope you enjoyed this, and Dad, happy birthday. All right. You guys are awesome. See you later.